Hello, I'm Max Desir, and welcome to S.T.A.R Productions, spiritually trained and renewed productions. Today, I have a special treat for you. To my left, I have the one and only poet, actor, activist, TV show host, radio show host, spoken word artist. I don't know what to call him. I have Mr. Michael Diallo McLendon in the house. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back. Max Desir, I have the one and only Michael Diallo McLendon. If you would say hi to the peeps.
Hello, Max. I am excited to be here, man.
Man, I'm super excited you're in the house. It's an honor. A lot of people know about you, but more people should know about you if they knew what you've been doing and what you've been up to. So I'm super excited to have you in the house. For those who are watching for the first time, if you would tell us, who's Michael Diallo McLendon?
Well, hopefully I'm a friend of Max's. Definitely, because I consider it definitely an honor and a privilege to be here. I'm an artistic soul who I believe God is using to be an artist, to help bring forth healing, love, peace, whatever it is He wants me to do and be, a vessel.
Wow.
Yeah, I just pray that God use every moment of my life to bring His presence and His goodness and grace on the planet.
Wow, fantastic. You heard it here first. But I've looked at your website, and I've noticed that when I look at your name, it says Michael, quotation mark, Diallo, end of quotation, McLendon.
Right.
If you would tell us, where did Diallo come from?
Okay.
And what does it mean?
Right. It means bold. And when I was in undergraduate school, I went to Tougaloo College, my favorite school in the world. That's my undergraduate institution. And a scholar by the name of Malifa K. Asante had a book of African names. And I wanted to choose something that would encourage me to be a better me. And I chose Diallo because it means bold. And growing up very quiet and shy and timid, every time someone calls me Diallo, they're speaking boldness over my life.
Wow.
So that's the reason I chose that name.
Wow.
Couldn't let go of the Michael because Michael means who is like the Lord.
Yes.
So I definitely, that's why the Diallo is after Michael, right? Who is like the Lord boldly.
That brings to mind when we talk about speaking those things that are not as though they were. Mm-hmm. Just putting that word bold in there just reminds you who you are as a bold man.
Yeah.
And then the more you hear it, the more you're reminded you are a bold man.
That was a time I wouldn't get up in front of people because I was just that shy.
Wow.
I remember shaking, pulling a poem from my pocket as a young man at church because my mother initially would write speeches for my brother and I, and we get up with other youth and say speeches. But I actually can just remember pulling out, maybe it was a poem I wrote, and just shaking, needing that boldness. And so I would say not only because of my mother's pushing and God's grace, the word being spoken over me continuously. Bold. It helps me to, even now, when I might want to sink into not being the best version of myself, then I know that God wants me to stand up, be bold, and do what He has called me to do.
I love it. Love it. Michael, tell us about some of the projects you've worked on in the past, because some of our audience, they're Star Generation audience, but they have no idea that you have a very colorful past when it comes to the projects you've worked on as an artist.
Well, as a spoken word artist, I've been blessed to release 2 spoken word projects. The first one called The Diallo Experience, and the second one, Love Revolution. And they're very close to my heart because they're basically spoken word, but they're also artists who are singing hooks and whatnot, if you will. And then there are also musicians who I had the blessed opportunity to meet, who are adding their bass line or their drum track. And then there are the words that God has given me. And then there are the love poems for maybe a young lady who I loved and lost, or or never loved at all. So it's an eclectic mix of culture, of love poetry, of community work. And it's a ride. It's an experience. That's why the first one's called the Diallo Experience. And the second one is Love Revolution, basically because I believe what we need is a love revolution.
Wow. And I'm going to come back to talk about these two albums because I do have some of my favorites in there.
That's what's up.
First of all, I got to say, those two projects, I think you've revolutionized the whole idea of spoken word by bringing music into it, bringing people who feature singing in your albums, bringing, like you said, people who are playing the drums. It's almost like before I started hearing your CDs, I don't think I've heard spoken word artists actually including different part of genres and music in their work to speak out their truth.
Some of it is because deep within me is a singer. And I've been writing songs since I was a young lad. However, the confidence to sing those songs hasn't always been there. I'm still developing that. So I'm not like, I know you already know that Max is quite the singer. I'm not, but I love to sing and write those songs. And at the time of recording, I was torn because moving to Nashville, I had a group in other cities. Moving here, I still had this desire to sing, but there was also this polishing God has done with the spoken word. And so even though this is the spoken word, that whole songwriting composition and the producer, Quinnex Coleman, who I was blessed to work with, who is quite the producer and musician and singer, hope to bring this hopefully unique sound that we hoped and seemingly some people did appreciate as something that was kind of new. There were definitely some other people who have done similar things, but I just wanted to get out these messages because some of the pieces on that first CD were poems that I'd written when I was in undergraduate school, and then some of them I had written the previous year, and so it's an eclectic mix, and it's a part of my soul that is transformed from my heart and then transformed through the microphone, and hopefully it's something that touches people. We've gotten some good responses from it. I thank God.
I could see why.
I thank
Anybody
God.
who's heard the Diallo Experience or Love Revolution, you'd have to pick up one of those CDs to know what we're talking about. I can see why. Because I think even more than the inspiration and how you've collaborated with people, the delivery for me has been poignant. It touches me because I believe you every word that comes out, every pauses, every second, every repetition or run on. They're I think they're intentional. And they do something to the soul.
Well, God gave me poetry because, as I was saying earlier, I didn't talk a lot. And there was a time in my life when I thought I had nothing to say. And so I was the youngest in my family. And it just seemed like when I got ready to get my ideas out, everybody moved on to another conversation. I was kind of frustrated as a child. And even when I liked a girl, my brother, who's 15 months older, every girl my age was crazy about my brother. So I found myself being, again, shy at the house. I didn't really go to many parties or anything. God gave me poetry as a leakage from my soul. And at one point, I didn't really want a relationship with the art. I wanted to be able to be out talking to people and be free in that way. I didn't realize that God was developing a ministry within me. I thought, well, man, I want to be kind of like everybody else. I don't want to be in the room with a piece of paper and a pencil as a kid. I want to go to the party, but I'm nervous at the party. You know, I'm scared. I can't really talk to people at the party. But when I got to college and I began to realize that there was value in this leakage with somebody else or what I was prepared to throw away, when I started to realize that, you know, people wanted to hear more or somebody could be encouraged through it, I realized that, wow, God is dealing with me. He's been dealing with me. This is not an accident. This is not something that you throw away. This is actually God working through my soul to produce something that is medicinal. And I was like, wow. And I started to really appreciate the art form. When I saw that it was not only medicine for me, but it could also help to heal some broken places in others as well.
Powerful, powerful. What are some of the projects you're working on now?
Oh, wow. I had the opportunity just a few weeks ago to be in a play called Another Day, Another Dollar, written by Henry L. Jones. He's a visual artist, but he's also a playwright. And it's set in 1968. And this young lady, Trisha Alicia, she's played by Trisha Alicia, who was my co-host when I was doing a radio show for a few years.
I think I saw a picture of that, yeah.
It's a great play that Henry's written, and I'm honored to be a part of it. I get the opportunity to be this ancestor who comes to her and is dealing with her because she is just dedicated to going to work and coming home and getting drunk and going to work, coming home and getting drunk. Another day, another dollar. And so I come to remind her that she comes from a lineage that has a responsibility to fight for freedom. So it's said in 1968, the actual day, if you will, that Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. And so I come to tell her that she has a responsibility and she just can't come home and work and drink and do that. We have a responsibility. And so hopefully the audience is reminded that, especially in times like these, we have a responsibility beyond our family. We have a responsibility to the community, to the youth, to do something, to be an example, to give, to share, to teach, to use the gifts we have to make the world better, and particularly those around us in the world that we can touch. You know, do something. And I think Henry was blessed to pen a great piece that I'm honored to be a part of.
Wow, that's fantastic. You have multiple titles, and I want to tackle each one of them in the next 4 to 5 hours.
I didn't know I had a title. Now I love to do stuff, but I didn't know I had a title.
Let's talk about you being an actor. Tell us a little bit about you as an actor. How did you get started, and the work that you've done, and where you are now in the game?
Well, I started by running around at the house. No one's there, and I'm running around thinking I'm Rambo and everybody else. I just in the mirror pretending to be Martin Luther King, all those kind of things. Because again, being from a small town in Mississippi, Waynesboro, Mississippi, there weren't many acting opportunities. But when I went to college, there was an opportunity to be in a few productions. Had a chance my freshman year to be in a play called Antigone, and Anjanou Ellis, who's quite the actress now, she's doing it very big. She represents our school, Tougaloo College, as an actress because she's been in quite a few things. She was a lead actress in the Book of Negroes. She was in that play, and so as she's matriculated, it's been very encouraging. So while I was at Tougaloo College, I had a chance to be in Antigone and then a play called Shoes by Ted Shines. And all the time, I'm loving this acting thing. It's like in my soul. It's turning over and over. Tougaloo doesn't have an acting major, but I love my school so much I can't leave Tougaloo. But it's in me. It's in me now. So at one point I was ready to drop out of school. Talking to my mother convinced me, no, don't drop out of school. But after I graduated, went to Atlanta for a little while. Went to an acting school for a couple of months, but ended up going to graduate school in journalism, which is what I do when I'm not acting. And so eventually my journey's kind of long. But I went to graduate school. I ended up teaching journalism at Tougaloo College, my alma mater. I taught at Knoxville College. I taught at Talladega College. While I was at Talladega College, God began to deal with me because I'm not doing acting during this period. Spoken word, but not acting. God starts dealing with me about moving to Nashville. But I didn't exercise my faith. I talked to my brother about the budget and what it would take to move. I'm looking by sight, not by faith. And then the youth program I was directing, we lost our funding. I remember the letter there quite vividly. It said, approved, but not funded. Yeah, I kind of wish they had disapproved it and not funded it. Then rather they approved and not funded. But the kids lost the program. The staff lost their jobs. I lost my job. I took my last check and said, "Hey, I'm going to Nashville." So I came here, and I like to, because I've moved quite a bit, like to go to a city and see what God is doing. Because I've been to cities or at certain places in my life where I tried to force things, and it's not the right time. I still might do that from time to time, but I've learned that when I'm moving to a new area, be prayerful, go around, see things, but God will make relational contacts and begin to open doors in one of these various areas, which will lead to the other things. So I remember being invited to be on a radio program by a poet. So I was a part of a spoken word roundtable. I think we were on one of the AM stations weekly. And while I was there, Dr. Lawrence James, who teaches theater at Tennessee State University, he asked me to come to Born Again Church and share spoken word at some type of coffee house night that they had. And in that process, he coached me through it in a way that pulled on that acting gene. And that kind of led to me doing plays at Born Again Church. I met a good mentor, Kay Addison Young, who cast me in quite a few productions, as well as Barry Scott. And so these type of experiences just let me know why God was sending me to Nashville and why all of my life I've been running around pretending to be characters, because it's not just a desire I have, but it's something that he's given me that I can do. It can happen. I can actually be an actor. In Waynesboro, Mississippi, it was something I wanted to do, but it was like nobody around me. No one else wants to do this. It's the wrong place. But when I went where he was leading me, now I see, because I believe in Nashville, and from Nashville, this is the soil. So things that I did other places, I were received pretty well, but God has planted me here because this is fertile soil for the ministry he's given me.
Wow. You mentioned one thing that kind of stuck with me there, because I can see it happening in my life over and over again. So God asks you to do something. You don't believe in yourself enough to make the move. So he will allow an adversity to happen in order for you to have an opportunity.
Yeah.
And there's been so many times when, in order for us to move toward opportunity, adversity has to take place. And so end up leaving your job because there was no more jobs to go to.
No more jobs.
So you were forced to go to Nashville for God to get you where he needed you to be. That's powerful.
To bless my soul.
Wow.
He's trying to help me.
Powerful.
He's like, son, let me help you.
Powerful.
Right. And this has been a beautiful experience. I came to Nashville in 2003, and my life has been wonderful. That does not mean it has been perfect. It's been a journey. I remember even coming to Nashville and looking for work because I didn't have a job when I came. I applied, and I was offered a job, and I was then going to Born Again Church, and I was at a men's prayer night and was on my knees at the chair praying, and felt in my spirit God was saying, "Don't take the job." I'm like, Lord, wait a minute. I'm in a city I've never lived in before. I need the money. Don't take the job. Let me make sure this is what you're saying. Got in my 4Runner at the time. Decided I was going to drive around campus just to see, maybe I didn't hear you right. It's drizzling rain. Someone delivering pizza comes from their side of the road and hits my automobile. And now, my 4Runner ends up being, basically almost totaled. And that was, for me, like, okay, don't try to force this. And then months later, on my knees praying after my Uncle John had passed, feeling the Lord giving me a release to say, it's okay now. So I went back to them thinking about international, how stupid I might look, but I'm like, if you're still interested in hiring me, I'd like to work here. And and they were still willing to hire me. And they added into the statement, we know you're a spoken word artist. We know you're an artist. Sometimes it's not really busy. If there are times you want to write and do different things, we're open to that. And I really believe part of it was God carving this unique space for me out at the job. So from time to time when I was working the job, they'd ask me to host certain events. We did a state farm, small farm expo. Sometimes I would share poetry about my father, and it has some agricultural elements to it. So some of the farmers from throughout the state would relate to it and be encouraged by it. So again, I can see God's hand in it. But again, he had to kind of make me, he had to say, no, don't take the job now. I'm going to take your automobile. But it was a blessed experience once it was done the right way.
Praise God.
Yeah.
Praise God.
Yeah.
You are not only a stage actor, you're a screen actor as well. Because I have been honored to share the stage with you in Raising in the Sun. And I've also been honored to share the screen with you in Autumn Leaves. Two projects that I've worked with this guy with. You know, that's how I know I'm going to make it when I get to work with guys like this. So talk to us a little bit about the difference between being on stage, because you've done quite your share on stage, and being on screen for TV, because you've done quite your share there as well. How is that different for you?
Well, can I say first that I appreciate you being willing to be in Autumn Leaves, because it's a personal, it draws on personal experience, the movie, but then it's fictitious in many ways. But coming in and playing a doctor so eloquently, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate that.
That was a great role. I liked it.
And not to mention Raising in the Sun. You know, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
For me, I think theater comes more naturally because I can be quite big in my expressions, right? And that doesn't always translate well on the camera. So my desire is to do more and more and more film. And I've done some films that I've enjoyed. I was the mayor in a film, and I had to go and record that, and really had a great job doing that. I've been in a few films. I've been playing a lot of preachers. You know, my mother's always told me I was going to preach, and maybe if I never actually preach, I've been a preacher in a few films. So I thank God for that opportunity, because again, it's representing Him. And the plays, I've had a more variety of roles. I've been a boxer, had a chance to play Jesus. I had a chance to be the mirror in a fairy tale type play. I just, wow. I love acting, and I'll say that for me, theater comes more naturally because in some ways, I'm just totally free because I'm walking around doing what I want to do, uninhibited. There is blocking, but the camera is not there, and I'm not having to play even though I want to do film more. With theater, I'm walking around the stage, and the passion can carry me because of my intention or my obstacle or whatever it is. With film, sometimes the passion is too much. So I'm still perfecting that craft, that part of the craft, but I enjoyed it immensely. I had a chance to be a judge in a film last year, and you know, so I'm still critiquing myself really hard, but I enjoy film just as much. I'm doing more film now than theater, so that's been the intention, and God is slowly transitioning me, because as you know, theater is a big commitment in terms of time. That's one of the differences, is that it can be 6 weeks for one weekend, possibly two. And the opportunities have changed in the last few years. There are more opportunities now to do webisodes and film because of technology than there were when I first moved to Nashville. I've even amassed some equipment so that I can begin shooting more films. So I'm excited because I've been praying about this thing, writing scripts, getting treatments, and so now I'm getting to the point where God is beginning to, as He's done with poetry, download treatments to me. So now I'm studying this whole script thing, and I don't want to keep delaying, but I'm beginning to get these treatments for films, and I'm looking for the time now, and this is about me practicing the craft, where God can just download a script. I want to, as quick as Tyler Perry can get a script, for what he does, I want to be able to get a script. Yeah. And it may need to be tweaked. It may need to be this, that, and the third, but I want that whole concept and story to be on page to the point where the words are almost invisible. You have the experience. You pick up the script, you have the experience, and when you stop reading, it's not about not reading anymore, it's about the story ending. And I want the passion, the love, the characters to live in that way. And then I want to bring those films to life in some of them, not being in some of them. Create opportunities for actors because there are a lot of great actors, musicians, artists in Nashville. I want to create opportunities like you're doing with the show.
Yeah, wow. Man, I look forward to be part of those projects, whether it's as a crew member or in front of the camera, because I believe in your work.
Well, you're the man, Max. That's the reason we had to have you on the last project. I think when we first met, knowing that we have the mutual friend, Alvin McLaughlin, who's an artist, I was like, okay, and then to be with you in the Raising Sun, but not even know. I know the camera audience knows, but when I saw you in Dreamgirls, I didn't know this brother sung the way he sings. That's something I've always wanted to do. Maybe I need to be looking at this camera. That's something I've always wanted to sing like that. And I'm still working on the craft, play a little acoustic, play a little keys, I get the songs out, working on the vocals. So I'll be, one of the things I just started with my production company with a publishing company, Backwoods Publishing for my songs, because this is the time too to really get those songs out here and just share them with people who sing and who are looking for material because I believe those songs perhaps are they have as much medicinal quality as the spoken word does. It's just a matter of some of them I may sing, but a lot of them placing them with people who have the integrity to sing them. Wow. I've had the experience of having someone sing a song and say, okay, God, that was me giving them that song. I shouldn't have done that. Not because they don't have the gift, but because if it's a love song, they might use it to manipulate the hearts of people as opposed to purely share the piece. And then all of a sudden, somebody's in harm's way because they hear this coming from someone who doesn't really buy in. Yeah.
I get you. The next thing I want to talk to you about is you've booked gigs with representation. That's for those, when I say representation, if you don't know what I'm talking about having an agent in the business. And you've booked gigs without representation. For the new upcoming actor without representation, what would be a good way for them to look for gigs out there?
Wow, I would say networking and also going to see shows because part of it is getting in the atmosphere. The way my career has flown or grown, I should say, not trying to do a spoken word piece, but is that, when I have representation, I have the opportunity to have a paid gig every time they call. Now, I may or may not book it, right? But I have the opportunity. When it's through a networking, more times than not, a lot of times, it's pretty much, it's booked, but it's questionable whether I'm gonna get paid. So I'll definitely get the exposure, and sometimes I get paid. So as an artist, I want to keep my engine oiled. I want to be acting so that whenever these opportunities comes that are paid, I haven't acted in 6 months. I'm nervous. I don't want to be that guy, because I've been there. And at the same time, I don't want to be so booked with plays such that, I'm so booked with these things that I can't go for 2 weeks and shoot a movie. So I think it's a delicate balance, but I would say begin to go see shows. I would say don't be timid about going to agents and auditioning for those agencies and realize too that they get paid when you get paid. Yeah. Not you go and give them $800, $1,000 for 1 million classes at their agency and their headshots and they convince you that you're still not ready to be an extra. Yeah, because that happens.
Listen and learn. That's the truth, right?
And it's heartbreaking when it's happening to you, but it's almost even more heartbreaking when I see a young person who is eager to act, who's in that matrix, and they're like, well, you know, they've been spending their money for months, and they've spent maybe over $1,000, and they don't have a resume yet. Yeah. When I could, and as I did recently for a young lady, I can just give her my resume and say, what you've done, put it here, just use this as a model. But she's spending $1,000 with these people, and they haven't even taken her to that point after months. Yeah. So I would say get a mentor in the business, and don't be afraid. Once you discern that it's somebody you can talk to and trust, don't be afraid to call them and talk to them. Because if you see somebody working and you want to work, that's the kind of person you need to be around, as opposed to letting somebody sell you a bag of goods that's going to end up with you paying more and more money, and maybe just having a resume full of extra work. Extra work is great. It's part of getting comfortable with the environment. But you don't have to pay people thousands of dollars to do extra work. People pay you to do extra work. So why not find out about that extra work proactively, do that extra work, and get paid to do it, as opposed to somebody who's trying to tell you, this is, you need to do this if you're going to be on set. And get that. No, learn. Yeah. Just get out there, get a mentor, and put yourself in there. Go see some shows. And after that show, somebody who you might connect with, go down there and talk to the people. Yeah. You know, and you know, be prayerful about everything. You know, really don't put yourself in a situation with anybody because they act really well. You know, talk to them on the phone, meet them publicly. You know, no, too much going on. We know that from this current climate. But definitely don't be afraid to reach out to people and form relationships. And then pursue the craft that way, because that person can even suggest agencies for you to approach and even recommend you. For a while, when I was with the People Store in Atlanta, a friend recommended me to the agency. Now, he told me he recommended a lot of people, and everybody didn't get on, and I did, so they must have seen some things. But at the same time, I had taken my resume to the agency. I had stopped by the agency and left. Didn't hear anything back. So, but when he told me to use his name, they took a second look, and then they held a group interview with me, and so there were about 6 people in the room. They gave me a script, and I performed before them, and then there was a couple people who weren't there, so they wanted me to come back, drive back from Nashville to Atlanta another time to do it again. So the other people were there, and I told them, because they liked what I was doing. And then they said, okay, well, we got something we want you to read for right now. I said, okay. So they said it's a coach. So I had to go get a blue shirt from a dollar store or something. But when I got back and they showed me the script, I realized I had not told that group, but I told the group before, that I love to act, but I won't be using any profanity or doing certain things that I'm not comfortable with, because I'm not a vessel for that. And so once I expressed that, I kind of felt like, well, they probably not gonna take me at this agency. Wow. But I'm driving back from Atlanta to Nashville, and I get an email where they say, we want to invite you to be a part of our agency. So that showed me that be who you are and put it out there, and what God has for you is for you. And so that's why I stick to what God speaks to me. Because he proves himself over and over again. I know what he's saying to me. Am I going to be the type of man who's going to honor what God is saying in my spirit, or am I not? I'm not saying that I've always done exactly what God told me to do, but I know that when I do what he tells me to do, it works out right. And when I don't, I'm always kind of like fidgety or doubting. There's something in my spirit that's like, I don't know. But when he resonates something in my soul, and I move on that, I can count on the fact that even if there's some pain in that situation, I'm where he wants me to be. So I'm comfortable, even to the point of death. Like if I know God is leading me to do something, and death looks me in the eye, I know that I died in God's will. So that's completely different from me just being out there, gangbanging and whatnot, and say, I want to get paid, and I'm willing to take you out. I'm not trying to do that. But if God leads me to death's door, then that's kind of honorable. Yeah. And I want to live my life in that type of honor. So with the art and with family and just with each breath.
Wow. Wow, powerful, powerful. Your career as a spoken word artist, tell us a little bit about that, and tell us a little bit about the CDs that you have out there.
Well, the first one, the Diallo Experience, it starts out with the blues, because being from Mississippi, we kind of know, not you, I know you're not from Mississippi, but I'm speaking on behalf of Mississippians. Something about the blues, some people argue it was started there. It has African qualities, of course, we're African American people, but the whole experience in Mississippi. So I started out there, and at the time, it was a little after Katrina when I first started working on CD. So there's a piece called Refugee that deals with the fact that they were calling, a lot of people were calling the citizens of Louisiana refugees of New Orleans. And so I enjoy that piece because it's a collaboration with a lot of different artists. And it's the one song on the CD that I actually produced the music to. My good friend Quinn X. Coleman produced the whole album except for two pieces. A gentleman by the name of S.T.A.R. McLendon produced some. He's not a blood relative, but we call ourselves relatives. And then my good friend Vasti Jackson, who's a world-renowned guitarist, came in and played guitar on quite a few pieces. So the experience was great. At that time, didn't have a lot of money, but I believed in it. Q believed in it. You know, God worked in miraculous ways, because with maybe a little over $1,000 and the equipment he had at the time, a little maybe G4 laptop, you know, he was able to capture the feel from these musicians, and everybody was willing to come. A lot of the people, because they knew Quentin, and some of the artists, the spoken word artists, maybe I had relationships with, but it was a really pregnant atmosphere. And when it was done, I really thank God for it. The thing was, even to get them copied, because of where I was financially at the time, I had to borrow some money from my brother. And then I remember we were working on mastering it, and I was working at TSU at the time in a different position than I am now. And I was talking to Q about it because he had brought something over. I think I may have had some mastering software. We began to talk, and you know, God, the Bible says that God inhabits the praises of his people. So whenever we're talking about him, he shows up. He begins to deal with me about giving away the first 1,000. So that's about all I had ordered, right? I maybe one or two. So then that meant, as we started sharing the project, it was about giving it away. And I really believe that his divine strategy of giving them away created an opportunity that would not have been there if we had said, hey, buy my CD. Because spoken word at that time wasn't something that people necessarily was saying, I want a spoken word project, because it's like, are you on there talking and you want me to buy this? You know, that kind of thing. But, you know, but as you said, it was something different. There's these musicians, these different things going on. My good friend Uzoma Miller sponsored a release party that we did in the Appleton Room at Fisk University. And we were giving out CDs at the doors. People came in, giving them to different radio stations, giving them to young people. And people started responding to particularly like the pieces like Little Black Girl. Even recently here, because I put out a book that's entitled Little Black Girl, an elderly, a seasoned lady from a church that I know. She wanted to share the poem. She shared it at a retreat for young girls, and she wanted to know if I had another book, because she wanted to bless this young lady who she had to present it, because the girl really loved the poem. So I did, and I signed it, and then I gave them 2 CDs. To me, it resonated that, wow, this material is still, and that's been years ago now, it's still being a blessing wherever it is. And that's what we wanted to do, and I believe that's what it's still doing. That's the thing that I love about recording, is that long after we are gone, those CDs, this recording, will still prayerfully be blessing people's hearts and souls, and maybe one thing you say or I say might set them on the right path if they've kind of gotten off a little.
And you got a stellar nomination for the Diallo Experience.
Got a step for that first, for that $1,000.
What was that like?
It was it was different. It was different because I don't think, at least at that time, I know culture changes. It's like with hip hop and rap. Poets don't necessarily do things for awards, because the reputation of most poets is if you put up a mic, and then we just like excited, open mic, poets just show up, you know. But it was different, especially my parents came to town, and my niece, my sister, and I was able to take my sister, my mom, and my niece to this awards show. Again, from a small town in Mississippi, so I mean, everybody. I'm not saying we're from a small town and we're ignorant. I'm just saying we're from a small town, and a lot of things we experience it by attending, but not necessarily being a part of it. And so it was a blessing for me to be able to bring them, because they've seen me for so many years leave maybe this job or move from that city, and in the depths of my heart has always been art. So for them to be able to come and for my mother to see that there's some level of accomplishment that her son that she spoke over when hardly anybody else would, to see some of that come in fruition. I remember my mother telling me when I was in those rooms writing, she said, if you keep on doing this, you can write as well as Shakespeare wrote, and she said stuff like, she helped me to put books together, of my poetry when I was in high school and early on in college, and she really encouraged it in that way, and it means so much. I think the older I get, the older people get in general, but definitely me, the more sentimental I get about my parents and what they've done, what they continue to do, what they're even willing to do, even in not being able to at this point.
Wow. Yeah. Tell us the difference between the Diallo Project and Love Revolution. Those are two different CDs out there.
Love Revolution. For me, it's a big deal because it's the projects that I've been blessed to have the opportunity to put out. Love Revolution is really about, that title track talks about the fact that it's time for us to exercise love. Not talk about love, not take up an offering in the name of love, not even preach about love, but just love, with all of its complexity, with its harshness and with all of its complexions, because love is not always agreeing with people, and love is not always giving people what they want, but love heals, love is active. So Love Revolution for me is really, in the piece, I talk about the community, the church's responsibility in the community, what I, as a child, sensed that was going on that was great in the church that I miss presently as it relates to going to most churches, but who I want to be in God and who I want us to be, and what's going on in our community, and what are we going to do about it? What are we called to do about it? Are we called to just go from our church to our home, to our job, to our home, to our church? Or in between it, when we pass a homeless person, are we supposed to do something? If we pass some young people walking who are lost for whatever reason, or just they just need some help, or are we engaged in our community? Are we engaged in our church? But definitely, as a church, are we engaged in our community? So it deals with that, but then it also veers off. There's a piece about homelessness that I got a chance to do a video for, The Forgotten Ones, and collaborate with my good friend Danny Salazar, who is currently in Puerto Rico. Danny's a great friend, awesome guitarist and singer. So we did two pieces, The Forgotten Ones and Here I Stand, which is a tribute to Paul Robeson. And then Zakia Anderson, she comes in and we do a duet called Baby Steps, which is really about a relationship. So that was my first time doing a poetic duet. So that was fun. Nice. And then a couple of her pieces are on there. So I wanted to include not only artists who were doing hooks this time, but also feature different people. Because whenever God gives me an opportunity, I really believe that within that opportunity is a multiplicity of opportunities for other people. Nice. And I just know that's what he's using me to do, is to put people, in their places of destiny. And so I always want to be sensitive to the fact that, okay, well, maybe this is a slot for this person or that person. Lord, show me, so that it all comes together in a holistic way. That's a blessing.
When I listen to Love in November and Love Revolution, that piece to Love in November, I feel like you're talking to a special lady in that piece.
Okay.
Can you expound on to Love in November? Because I think that's a classic piece. That's it has a lot of smoothness behind it. You know, it's almost a romance piece for me to listen to Love in November. Does anybody in particular come to mind?
Oh, definitely. Well, first of all, I want to thank Tanisha Rochelle for singing on that piece, because I think she has a fabulous voice. I mean, I was honored that she did that, and the cue for producing it, Queen X Coleman. Yeah, I mean, every piece is written about every love poem about a young lady who, you know, because this piece is about my mom, just to put that out there. I mean, I was just writing all these love poems, but there's poetry for my mom on there as well. But yeah, so, you know, because the poem, you know, I prayed to God that you would remember how sweet it was to love in September, and it's sometimes love is as much about release as it is about what is the opposite, holding on or capturing, if you will, if that is even the right word. And so I think the greatest expression of love between a man and a woman is one where, you know, if in your heart and soul you both let one another go, but you choose to stay, you know. And so it's basically, even though in this poem she chose to go, the sweet aroma of the relationship lingers, and that's hopefully the vibe that the piece captured. Yeah,
Y'all got to pick up those CDs. I mean, you cannot enjoy what we're talking about until you get yourself those CDs, the Diallo Experience and the Love Revolution, to really see what I'm talking about.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
guys.
man.
Yeah.
Listen, you are also a radio personality. You are also a TV host, and time is running, but I would love for you to talk about these two positions and how you handle them, and how do you even have time for them?
Well, you know, it's all God ordained, and I thank Him because of the timing. Because forever, I have loved watching people host on television and how they do it. I remember as a child just listening to Donnie Simpson. You're watching Video Soul. I'm Donnie Simpson. You know, just mimicking what he was doing. Or you're, you know, the VJ on the unseen DJ on the radio doing the Love Zone with Mel Devon or something. Yeah. So I've loved mimicking those people forever. And so majoring in journalism, going to grad school, and then having opportunity there to have a radio show, and to intern in radio in undergrad. I've always been dabbling to some degree in radio. And so when I got to Nashville, when I started working first at Tennessee State University, part of my job was to promote the School of Agriculture and Consumer Sciences. And so one of the things that I was blessed to do was create a radio show for one of the specialists in particular, Leslie Speller Henderson. So I became her producer. We come up with these topics and develop questions. So it got to the point, though, where I was the person who would ask her the questions on the air. So this was giving me opportunity, you know, to do that. Mind you, if I should back up, I had done that piece that I mentioned earlier with the Acting Roundtable, and I'd also been a part of another radio show. So God was just working in radio when I got to Nashville. But I was working with Leslie, and I think that's where Orlando Boyd, who is the general manager of 760 AM The Gospel, who brought me on to be a part of the Raw Music Radio show, heard me, was on the show with Leslie Speller Henderson. So Orlando called me one day and he said, "Hey man, have you thought about doing a radio show?" And I thought about it, and I was like, I would love to do a radio show. You know, something, because he knew the spoken word side of me as well. So my first radio show was called Mic Check Spoken Word Show. Did that for about a year or so. Then I think that radio station transitioned from talk, and it closed down, so everybody was doing talk, had to leave. But then he wanted me to continue. He apparently loved what I was doing, and I thank God for that, because I teamed up then with Trisha Alicia, and so we were doing the Raw Music Radio Show. We did that for about 2 years. Had a wonderful time interviewing poets and spoken word artists from around the nation, and some out of the country as well, just promoting their projects and playing music because, as you probably know at this point, there are a lot of people who have music and they're doing their spoken word. It's a big thing now. So we called it, at Trisha's suggestion, we were looking for a title, the Raw Music Radio Show, Rhythm and Word. And so that was quite a blessing for 2 years. On television, Orlando also is the general manager of a television station. So then there's God working again because he's open to the creativity God has given me. So I was getting some instruction from a good friend who was trying to teach me about cameras, and he said something about lenses and cameras and lights, and then some kind of came up in the atmosphere, cameras, lights, and lenses. Boom. And then the next day or two, I went and talked to Orlando. I was like, we were talking about TV, and I said, well, yeah, I have an idea for a TV show, cameras, lights, and lenses. So he liked it, and so we went with it. And so on that show, I interviewed actors, producers, filmmakers, things of that nature, and was planning to continue it, but we've come to a new place because what happened was the good brother who was producing everything for me could no longer do it, and I just really appreciate all the work that he put into cameras, lights, and lenses because he's meticulous. He does it all the time. This is what he does, and I could tell. But it's the point now for me to grow, right? Because I can't be dependent. I have people who I know personally who have shows, who set the cameras up and the lights, and they make it work. They feed you and everything else. You just want to be on the show every other day. So no excuses in 2018, right? So both of those shows concluded, and my current conversations with Orlando are about merging the vision such that what's on television, what's on radio, and what's on the web are one. We take the audio for the radio show, we have the video for Bounce TV, and then we have what we put on the web, maybe a more lengthier presentation than what's on television. And so this way the vision is not just these different fragmented things, but it's one thing which makes it more potent. So we're conceptualizing in terms of the purpose, so that it's all centered. So I'm excited about it because Orlando's a visionary, and I'm glad that he trusts and supports the creativity God has given me. Because it doesn't stop. God is the creator. He'll keep sending it. That's why I say, I'm not worried about people trying to take a song or a script or a poem, because it's healing power God is giving, and just like He gave that last song, He'll give another song. Just like He gave that last poem, He'll give another poem. Just like He gave that last script, He'll give another script. Yeah. They're not really mine anyway. I don't want somebody. I'm not saying, hey, come get all the poetry I write and you get paid for it and I don't get anything. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying there's no fear, because on my last breath, I believe poetry will still be coming, and the poetry that has already been delivered will still be speaking to the hearts and minds of people, because I believe that I'm a vessel for God's poetry, music, and creativity. So I don't have to try to come up with it. I believe He's going to feed my soul. Wow. I really do.
Praise God. Man, that's exciting. Before we end, I noticed that you have 2 Facebook pages. You have a personal page, and it looks like you have an artist page. Who can befriend you on those pages, and what other social media can we follow you, like you, and follow your work?
Sure. On the fan page, all you have to do is hit like. Michael Diallo McLendon. McLendon is with 1 C, McLendon. So anybody can just go and like. And of course, on the personal page, most people, if it's something crazy, I will very quickly hit, I don't know what it says, deny or whatever. But yeah, I it's social media. It's not me. So, but it represents me. But definitely, I want to share the creativity and the inspirational messages that come across social media with whoever wants to see them, because sometimes a quote can change the complexion of a moment. Yeah. And on Twitter and on Instagram, it's Michael Diallo MC. For whatever reason, I couldn't get the whole thing on those, but it's Michael Diallo MC.
Okay.
You can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram that way as well.
As we conclude, tell us, what is the dream for you?
Yeah.
What's that place of, if we call it actualization, the zenith, the peak? What is that place for you? What does it look like?
Yeah, that's good because that's twofold, right? Because one is on the inside and one is on the outside. Yeah, on the inside, it's a lot of what's going on now, and that's why I think it's about spiritual exercise. It's about being available for whatever God is doing in the moment, right? So if that's a song or a poem or a performance or a trip, or being able to give this or to listen to that, just getting to a place where I'm constantly available and can hear the song. On the inside, that's all it is. And a lot of times I am there. That's what it is. On the outside, I definitely want a beautiful family. I don't have that yet. That's something I desire to have. Looking right in the camera.
Talk to them.
Definitely, yeah. Well, no. But I want to be in a position to build some schools. When I was in undergraduate school, I had a vision. I woke up one night and I saw a campus, and I believe that the school I'm supposed to build, the first one is a model. And I believe the model then is supposed to be replicated. And I think that the replicas are supposed to be funded by various entertainers, athletes, philanthropists. And so the way I've seen it is that the initial part of that is my inundation, maybe that's not the right word, but me being in the arts and also amassing funds so that I am a peer in many ways financially with these people. And so building those schools, and networking with those people is supposed to build these replicas. They're when I say replica, they are just alike, but some of them may have a different interest or maybe major focus, just like different schools throughout the city. One may be more art-centered, another may be more science-centered. But I say the U.S., but also in other places as well. I believe there's a certain specific type of education that will best fit young people, particularly young people of African descent, but really anybody that has a creative mind or has whatever kind of mind it is. Sometimes I think the school system as it is, in many instances, does more harm than good when we start talking about people who have creative dispositions or who are already locked in to a certain path. And when they can be in an environment that, yes, gives them some sense of a liberal arts education in the sense that they learn about different things, but really focuses in on their strength. And sometimes I believe that young people can shoot forward, and some people who might be labeled special ed, or maybe held back in classes might go forth if they are seen for who they are, as opposed to trying to get them to fit into a circle if they're a square. And so the schools, that's the biggest piece, to see these schools come up. And that's why running the youth program was such a big blessing, because I saw that opportunity as kind of like the school. And we made a lot of advancements in terms of that youth program, in terms of the programming and exposing the children to a lot, but it was grant funded, and which was good because we had it, and we wouldn't have without the grant. But we need to, and endowments, and then people like LeBron just opened the school. I'm excited about that, because at one point he was helping people with their college education. He's still doing that, and I'm excited about a lot of stuff. He's my favorite basketball player, just to get that out there. but what he's doing with education is very important. And so as an artist, I enjoy art, I enjoy acting. I really believe that the zenith of it all, as you say, is to open a school and then to have it such that, just like people with franchise businesses, where the type of school can be replicated and put in different places. All you have to do is believe in the project and then support it with your money, and all of a sudden these kids have an opportunity to really become all that they can be.
Wow. Man, I love a soul that just doesn't want to amass wealth for themselves so they can die and get it over with, but they actually want to get it to create something better for society. That's powerful, man.
Well,
I love it.
I appreciate that encouragement, Max, because I believe that that there's so much that we can do, that it's about the opportunity to inside of our own minds. Because when you think about all the creativity that we possess, and sometimes it might seem like it's easier to just work those jobs and go to sleep, like that play, another day, another dollar. But were it not for people in our own collective history like Mary McLeod Bethune or Booker T. Washington, Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, who thought more than about themselves, but about the freedom and liberation of their family, their community, the freedom and liberation of everyone's mind. Because even though people of African descent needed freedom from physical slavery, the fight was not just that. It was about freeing the spirit and the mind from thinking that any human being should be enslaved. So, so that was the fight for the physical freedom. But, for anyone who accepted the idea that another human being should or could be a slave, breaking those shackles. And so there's so much that we can be doing, and it takes but us turning the camera on, right? Turning the lights on, talking about it, then working on it, making plans. Surely if we can plan things like homecomings and have battle of bands, then we can meet at some of these same facilities and figure out what's going on with our young people and put together programs to support them in being the best version of themselves.
Oh man, you got my support. That's wonderful. Man, I always let my guests have the last word. So at this time, as we're concluding, if you would talk to camera number 2 here, and you have somebody out there who may be creative, they're struggling, there's somebody out there who is at the beginning of your path, but they're not where you are now, would love to be, and they're discouraged, and they somebody might be suicidal out there. They just want to give up on their dream. Whatever they thought they were going to accomplish in a year, it's been 5 years, it's been 10 years. It has not come anywhere close what they wanted. And I want you to talk to them. Whatever's in your heart right now, last word, whatever comes to your mind, your heart, you want to tell them, it's yours.
I just want to say to anyone who might be watching and be discouraged, that your test is just a part of your testimony. That as long as you have breath, you are blessed. Now, sometimes there's a shifting going on. Sometimes that shifting is painful, but that shifting is actually working for your good. Just like I didn't want to leave Alabama necessarily and come to Nashville. It was painful. I lost my job. People working for me lost their job. The youth lost their job. For you, it could be losing a loved one. It could be not the vision not coming into reality. But somewhere within the loss is new life. And if you hold on through the seeming loss, there's new life. Just like that seed that breaks through the shell. It's buried in a dark place. There seemingly is no light, but at some point the light breaks through the ground, and that seed breaks through that shell, and at some point, it starts shooting up above ground. I think Tupac called it the rose that grew from concrete, right? I think James Allen said something about the oak sleeps in the acorn. So that new life is taking some pressure to come forth. It takes maybe some tears, some that you shed. Some people left you might have wanted to stay. Some people stayed who you want to leave. I don't know exactly, but I do know this, that there's new life. And if you hold on, you pray, get quiet, get away from the noise and listen, then the fruit of the Spirit will begin to operate in your life if you begin to really, and this is what was good for me, and it's still good for me, look for opportunities to give and to minister and be available, one for God. Listen, God, what would you want me to do with this day? I got breath in my body. I got blood in my veins. I'm blessed with each breath. Repeat it if you have to. I'm blessed with each breath. I'm blessed with each breath. Whatever it is you need to do, listen and realize that there is a testimony and there is a future beyond the pain that is much bigger and better, and there's purpose in it. And there is a time when what you're going through will be the medicine or the bridge that will help somebody else to cross over into their destiny. So you don't want to, if you're an artist, you're not just want to do that just because you want to do it. That's because God has given you talent and he's given you vision. And even though it hurts right now because you never get the part or that nobody else around you wants to do it, keep working, put yourself in that environment. Eventually you'll be the one on stage feeling good after that performance, and then you'll be looking into the eyes of someone who looks just like you, giving them an encouraging word. I promise you, if you hold on, that's going to be the reality.
Wow. Thank you, brother. That's our show for today. My name is Max Desir with S.T.A.R Productions, spiritually trained and renewed productions, where it's not enough to be talented, you have to be spiritually trained and renewed. My guest today, Mr. Michael Diallo McLendon. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you, Max.